What's going on, guys? I know I've been gone for like 2 days, nothing crazy. So we're gonna get back into this whole Russia Ukraine thing and see what's going on with the update on that. I got a couple videos that I want y'all to react to. Y'all ain't gonna react to. I'm gonna react to them. But without further ado, getting nicer at this. Let's react to Fox News. How Putin plans to invade Ukraine has changed, because allegedly, from what we're hearing, is he's losing. I don't know how he's losing when every time I turn around, he's gaining ground, which is interesting to me. But it's neither here nor there. Let's see what they talking about.
A Fox News alert. He's going after nuclear power plants, leveling neighborhoods, and maybe targeting civilians intentionally.
I heard he just hit a hospital. It don't sound like he's losing, in my personal opinion. And these sanctions ain't doing nothing, just like most people expected.
So is Vladimir Putin's strategy to take over Kiev changing? Join me now to break it all down is Fox and Friends weekend co-host and Afghanistan war veteran Pete Hegseth. Pete, thanks for your time. Can you give us an update? What's going on with this changing strategy? It appears he's gotten bogged down up north, but I watched this morning on Fox and Friends. You seem to indicate from the east and the south, he's doing a lot better.
That's exactly right. I think we have a time-lapse map that's going to show the fact that the initial push, no doubt the main effort, the hope, was that they were going to come from the north, and they have been bogged down there. The famous 40-mile convoy is a portion of it. It's not just that. As a result, but it was always a four-pronged approach from the north, the northeast, the east, and the south. It turns out they've made far more advances in the south, which is not advantageous for Vladimir Putin, but may lead to a shift in strategy, and a tragic one, Dan, because what they have an advantage of in the south, and I think the next slide shows, is it's the closest proximity to the nuclear power plants, one of which they've already taken over, another of which they may soon take over, which means they have control over whether the lights are on, the power is on, the water is on, the internet is on, and that leads to the siege mentality. When you watch those time shift maps, Dan, it's almost like an anaconda. It's a strangle effect on the country, choking off all of its options except for the west, where they reinforce. And of course, those Stingers and those Javelin missiles have been devastatingly effective. Reports show that, it's one man with a Javelin from 2.5 miles away, fire and forget, can take out a tank and rinse and repeat. And that's very dangerous for Vladimir Putin. So the nuclear reactors in the south are being targeted. And that leads me to kind of the next phase, which is civilian targeting, Dan. Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, damned if you do, damned if you don't for him, because he knew that he had to ask civilians to be armed. They don't even have enough weapons for all the civilians, but they're providing them. Through the lens of Vladimir Putin's eyes, and again, through his lens, he'll say, well, if you're arming civilians, civilians are targets. And when civilians are armed and there are targets, then civilian buildings are targets. And if the women and children are fleeing, and if they've left behind, then a woman or a child is a human shield to a civilian target, which he will use to attempt to rationalize to the rest of the world why he's hitting civilian targets. And that's a more traditional Russian tactic, Dan, in the south, is bomb and bomb and bomb into submission, level entire cities, try to break the will of the people there, and then not even take them, Dan. They don't want to hold this ground. They want to put enough pressure and inflict enough suffering that Zelensky says, our will is broken. We can't fight any longer. And that seems to be the approach that he's taking. We see it in the south in what he's doing to Mariupol, what he's doing to Kharkiv in the northeast. Kiev is the eventual.
Just want to emphasize on that, because that makes a lot of sense. Like, if you're arming civilians, because that's all the news is saying. Like, the news is going back and they're saying, like, oh, Russia is attacking all these civilian places, the hospitals. If I'm in a hospital, give me the UWAP too, because if they come in there, if people are shooting at the Russians and wherever they're at, then technically they're a part of the war. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Let me see.
Goal.
It's got a little
The
bit
question
left.
is how much will he extract? But it's been really. Your previous guests were very interesting. I mean, they are not executing the kind of plan they hoped they would have. It appears if they attempt to inflict more suffering, they think that will bring them to their end goal, which only leads to more tragedy. But it's been amazing to see the Ukrainians fight.
Yeah, those guests were fascinating. Pete, thanks for the update tonight. Thanks for sticking around with us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to compelling analysis.
Okay, what's next?
And we are learning that much of a Ukrainian tank factory has been leveled after Russian strikes. This is about some 85 miles west of Kyiv. The area has seen intense shelling in recent days. And a new video just coming in from the city of Irpin on the outskirts of Kyiv. You see jets there flying overhead, and then a massive explosion with plumes.
It says at the bottom, new video shows jets attacking city of Irpin near Kyiv. K-Y-I-V, I don't know.
Black smoke billowing from the rubble there. Needless to say, the massive bombardment caused incredible damage, many buildings going up in flames. All of this as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urges his people to keep up the resistance against the Russian onslaught.
Ukrainians, in all our cities where the enemy invaded, go on the offensive. Go out on the streets. We need to fight every time we have an opportunity.
Now, this comes as the temporary ceasefire in parts of
I know a lot of people are calling this president Zelensky brave on the internet, but I just feel like it comes a time when, like, you know, they're not going to win this war. And it's one thing that Russia, like, is getting sanctioned, but they're still coming. And you're telling a bunch of people as the top of the head, like, this ain't Spartan 300. Like, these are regular civilians, and I get it. Like, they will fight for their land, but at the same time, you're going to kill a bunch of people and you're still going to die. Russia does not care about these people that they're sending in, and they have way, way more soldiers and people, and they're coming. And no one's coming to help them. Like, they got to help themselves. And I just don't think that they're going to win. So you're going to lose. A lot of lives are being lost because of this war that this president can't win. So I think it comes a time where you have to decide whether, you know, it's best to take your L and keep it moving without causing as much, like destroying the whole country, like a lot of people losing their lives over this, or do you want to fight to the death? I don't even know if that's a word you can use, till you delete and you still get your country taken over. Like this, I don't think they're in a win-win situation, and it's unfortunate. That's all I'm saying. Like, a lot of, like, telling your civilians, like, I'd rather you live to fight another day if I was the president versus, you know, not living, and then, you know, the situation you still losing, kind of, you know. I don't know what negotiations they have been having. I haven't seen any videos on what they've been talking about, but I feel like with the sanctions going on and on top of the war in their country, I feel like they could come up with a compromise. Maybe they won't join NATO or something like that, to where, I don't know, life goes on, but we'll see.
Eastern Ukraine to let civilians get to safety is now on hold after allegations Russian fighters violated the agreements of that ceasefire. Russia blames Ukraine. And that Ukrainian resistance indeed being seen in actions both by the civilian population and its military. CNN's Arlette Saenz with that.
Tonight, new images emerging from the battlefront. Ukrainian armed forces releasing this video of the moment they say they shot down a Russian helicopter. The fire-engulfed aircraft hurtling towards the ground. Here, another Russian aircraft, a fighter jet, falls from the sky. The Ukrainian military says it took down the plane, smoke billowing in its wake as it crashed into a residential neighborhood about 90 miles from Kyiv. The Ukrainian Emergency Services says these are the remains of the jet. Bombs.
I feel like they're gonna just continue to show all of these things to make people, because everybody is for Ukraine, and that's okay. Like, everybody can be for, and like, no one wants war, and that's okay. But you showing it on the internet like, oh, they're winning this situation when Russia's still actively coming. And I don't think the amount of money, because they still got they still have the soldiers. 'Cause people are talking about like them, like from what I'm seeing on the internet about a budget and how Russia. I seen someone talk about how Russia can't afford to continue this war. If they already have the planes, they already have the manpower. They're coming. There's no ifs, and or buts. They're gonna continue to come. Like, and yes, these videos bring up morale for people that are praying for Ukraine, but there needs to be someone telling this Vladimir Zelensky guy, like, anyways.
Undetonated mere steps from homes, the scenes of war. A war Ukrainians continue to fight with limited help from Western allies. In a Zoom call with U.S. lawmakers, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky calling for greater military assistance, including the transfer of fighter jets from Eastern European countries and the establishment of a no-fly zone. The U.S. and NATO still resisting such a move, warning it could prompt a full-scale war in Europe.
A no-fly zone might be just a bridge too far that I'm not willing to take that type of risk right now. A U.S. plane shooting down another Russian plane, or vice versa, is something that could really escalate to a nuclear war.
Russian President Vladimir Putin declaring that any country or organization implementing a no-fly zone would be considered participants in the conflict. And as Ukraine pushes for more sanctions, Putin stating the sanctions already imposed on his country are equivalent to a declaration of war against Russia. On the ground in Ukraine, a show of solidarity from the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken side by side with the Ukrainian foreign minister on the Polish border.
And as to the pressure on Russia, not only is it unprecedented, not only is it producing very,
all right,
very
I'm not about
concrete.
to watch the rest of this. That's just an update of what's going on. Let's go into some finances with Jeremy from financial advice. Financial education.
Bill Ackman is at it again. Oh boy. Okay, let's talk about what Bill Ackman's saying here, and I'll give some points based upon this. If you have no clue who Bill Ackman is, you're clicking on this video, you can always Google him as this video goes along, essentially, okay? But there's a reason I'm obviously bringing him up. He's a huge name in the stock market community, and he has some interesting words, and I would love to hear your guys' opinion on this in the comments section. I would love to hear your guys' take on this. I love reading through.
And I just think it's interesting because I get my news from everywhere. I think it's interesting. It was a young lady who I watched her video the other day, and she was saying how people are calling this World War III when there have been multiple wars in between this. And there wasn't, I wish I could quote her, but I can't, and I don't want to mess it up. But she was basically saying that there was a war in Africa and amongst 7 countries, and it was probably the most brutal, like, death total wise of wars since World War II. And it's kind of fascinating because people that look like me were dying. Like, that doesn't classify as a world war, but never mind, y'all won't get it. Let me not get canceled.
Through the comments, especially on a controversial take like this. Let's jump into this, guys. This is what he just tweeted here a few hours ago. In January 2020, I had nightmares about the potential for a pandemic, but everyone seemed to think I was crazy. I'm having similar nightmares now. World War III has likely started already, but we have been slow to recognize it. Putin has invaded Ukraine and it's not going well. All right, so before we get to the rest of this,
Cap.
Even
if it's not going, even if he expected a surrender, they definitely not going to lose. So, I mean, what we talking about? Practice?
It's not a good look to throw out like, oh, I'm calling World War III. Like, everybody recognizes the potential of World War III. Whenever Russia's doing something and invading a major country, we all are aware of this. And this isn't something like you want to call. This is not like a stock where it's like, oh, I called that before everybody else called it, right? No, this isn't that type of situation. There's a reason everybody in the world's paying attention to this Russia-Ukraine situation right now, right? I can't go on YouTube without getting videos fed to me about nuclear war and the biggest nuclear bombs and, like the newest thing out of CNN that's going on in Russia-Ukraine right now. This stuff is everywhere, okay? Everybody recognizes this. And this isn't like a moment to try to say, hey, I'm going to be right on this. I'm going to be the one that called it. Don't forget about me. It's not the vibe, man, okay? And so that's my opinion on this World War III trying to call it. It's like, no, this isn't like a situation you call. We all recognize the potential of something getting a lot worse here, and Europe getting involved and the U.S. getting involved. We all understand that, right? We all are hoping for the best in the situation, but we all recognize that this is a possibility, okay? So I wanted that to first be said. For Russia, the Ukrainians have put up a remarkable resistance. NATO refuses to enter the war, but NATO members and most of the rest of the world have launched an economic war and are supplying Stingers, anti-tank weapons, other munitions, intelligence, and funding. Putin declared these actions as acts of war against Russia. Wait a minute. All right, the way Bill Ackman put that there sounds way more scary than what Putin actually said. This is Putin's direct quote I'm about to read you, okay? His direct quote. Quote, "These sanctions that are being imposed are akin to a declaration of war, but thank God it has not come to that," Putin said, okay? So, if you take people's words out of context in a very, very serious situation, it can sound very, very scary. And once again, this is not, in these sorts of moments, these are not time periods to mess up quotes that somebody is doing out there or to try to scare people. And keep in mind, this is the same Bill Ackman that a lot of people already distrust because of what happened when he went on TV, on CNBC, and he was talking about hotels were going to zero and this and that, right? And then all of a sudden he flipped and he's like, but, I'm buying today. And it was like, all of a sudden, stocks went from down to up. And that rubbed people the wrong way, like in a huge way. And so if you got to understand, if the public's already looking at you as kind of a villain in this situation, you can't go messing up people's quotes or trying to make things sound way more scary than what they essentially are. Okay, that's very important. So right off the bat, he's just off to a horrible start here, in my opinion. Okay, yet there is much more we can do before we enter a hot war with Russia. We could stop the absurdity of buying oil from Russia and funding the war. Okay, Mr. Ackman. We do that, and you do realize gas prices are about to go up massively more as if they're not already going up, okay? And so that's fine. We can choose that option, but get ready to pay, $5, $6, $7 a gallon for gas. Because right now, even though, I'm sure everybody that wants the ability or has the ability to frack for oil or get out there and start drilling, those folks, it takes a little bit of time, okay? It can take several months, if not a year, to get a lot of wells up and running. And so that's not fixing problems in the short term. So if the U.S. decides to completely cut out Russian oil, and that's certainly a decision that can be made, it's just very important to understand that guess where gas prices are going? They're skyrocketing up much more. Okay. And so, this is where it's like, what do you choose here? You want everybody in the United States to pay way more for gas than they're already having to pay?
My gas just hit $5 and I'm screaming inside. Like, it's ridiculous. So they need to figure out this Russia situation because, I ain't that broke, but a couple of y'all gonna be walking soon. I'm just saying, like, a sneaky link is gonna be like, you got gas money. Anyways.
And you want oil prices and Brent crude to continue to skyrocket? And so, man, these are tough decisions. That's all I can say. You make it sound really easy until you realize all of a sudden, people are trying to pay $5, $6, $7, a gallon for gas, or maybe more than that. You never know how far things can go the other way, right? Europe could follow suit once demand for gas declines in the spring. Okay, so now we're all of a sudden, thinking a little bit about this, right? We could supply Ukraine with our best weaponry and more of it. We could give them access to intelligence, which would enable them to better target the enemy. We could give them better drones and training to operate them. We don't need to put troops on the ground because Ukrainians with the right weapons and resources have proven they have what it takes to win the war unless Putin goes nuclear. Our reason...
Miss Kate, I just seen the shooter. You know they're not gonna talk about that. I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna watch it later, but they definitely not about to talk about this shooting. Yeah, that's interesting. That's for sure.
There's so many just statements being made there, dude. You don't know if they have what it takes to fight them off.
I might need to carpool with you, to be honest with you, if you got an EV car, because yeah, it's getting rough out here.
You're no clue, Bill Ackman. Like no disrespect. You have no clue. I have no clue. No one has any clue if Ukraine can really fight them off. Just because you've been fighting, them off for a few days, Russia has been making progress. And keep in mind.
Thank you. I just said that. Didn't I just say that? Like everybody's making it seem like, they're gonna. It kind of. I mean, if you look at the media out here, they're making it seem like Ukraine might have a chance, and they don't. And that's the crazy thing. And from what I hear on the other end, like in Mother Russia, they're not showing this at all. So most people don't even know why this is going, why these things are happening to them, because the media in Russia isn't really showing what's going on. From what I hear, because obviously I'm in the US, I don't know what Russia is showing, but the people that are lying to us in the media is saying that. So whatever.
And wars can last months. Guess what? They can last years.
Right.
And so just because you haven't given up all your big cities in a matter of a few days, the war is 9 days in? Just because you haven't given it up doesn't mean, we won. We can fight them off. That's not the way this works, dude. It's frustrating. It's just, anyways. Our reason for not doing more appears to be out of fear of provoking Putin. We have, however, already provoked Putin by giving Ukrainians the weapons that they are enabling them to succeed in this war. It's such a strong word, like succeeding in this war. No one's succeeding in this war right now. Let's be very clear about that. No one's winning this. Ukraine's not winning this. Russia is not winning this. Everybody's losing right now. Everybody. And all the other countries are losing right now as well. Everybody's losing. There's no winners right now. Let's be very, very clear about that. Because Russia is now a nuclear power and Putin is a madman, he says, okay, we say we can't intervene in Ukraine. What then?
All right, that's enough for the update. He had one more video, and about this Russia thing. I'm trying to figure out how I can make more money. So this last video that I'm going to listen to and check out is called My Number One Advice to All Investors Right Now. If y'all don't know, this is my guy, Jeremy from Financial Channel. I've been following him since his channel was at like 10,000. So, and I've made some decent money, just shadow. I mean, it's not financial advice, but I've lost some money, Groupon, and I've made some money following him. So obviously none of this is financial advice, but I think he's a pretty smart guy. He does his research, all of that good stuff. He doesn't flip flop like me, Kevin. So, and yeah, so let's see. This is videos. My number one advice to all investors right now. Let's get to this.
Hey there, folks. Welcome into today's video. This one, we're getting into my number one tip for all investors in the market. It's going to be a really important video, and I spent some time over the past couple hours putting this together because I want to make sure it is fully sinks in what I'm talking about in this video, because it's one thing if you just hear it, right? And you just hear, hey, you're supposed to do this one thing, right? It's another to have this explained in a way that it really fully hits you so you really understand how impactful this can be. And this is something that I came across in the stock market in my first few years that I really got to understand. If I'm going to really build up to 6 figures in the market, 7 figures and beyond in the stock market, there's certain things I have to do in order to get myself there, or it's all just a pipe dream, right? And in life, there's what's called, your dreams. Your dreams are over here, and what you're putting in the work for, and how you get to make those dreams possible. And so whatever those dreams are, whether that's to, have 6 figures, 7 figures in the market, 8 figures in the market, or whether it be to retire early or travel the world or whatever it is, okay? There's a million different things. Have your kids grow up better than you grew up, whatever it is, right? if you're going to make those dreams into reality, there's certain things that you have to do to get yourself there. And there's certain things, certain sacrifices you have to make to get yourself there, or you're never going to make those dreams of yours, what you want to become a reality, you're never going to make that happen if you don't do these certain things. And so, yeah, this would be an impactful video, I hope, to a lot of folks out there, and I hope it really sinks in so you really, really understand exactly what I'm talking about here, okay? So when I started in the market and started kind of, looking into investing and doing a little dabbling of investing in the market, 2008, 2009, I, came across compounding calculator. My accounting teacher, taught us, to kind of work with a compounding calculator and kind of find out, different things and plug some different numbers in and whatnot. And so at that time I was working at Quick Trip. This is way back in the day. Alright, you guys ready to see a picture of me way back in the day at Walgreens working? Well, let's go ahead and take a peek. There he is. There's that guy.
Nah, I'm gonna just keep my comments to myself.
Okay, working at Walgreens
like
and making, I don't know, $8-9 an hour or whatever it was back then. But that's where I started my investing journey. And so I ran some numbers, and I had around $300 or so to kind of invest in the market. And I basically was running numbers based upon how much I was making. I was living with my parents at that time, and I had about an extra $200 a month to invest. So I said, well, how much money will I have roughly in about, let's say when I'm like 30 years old, because I was like 18, 19 years old at that time. So I'm like, over the next 11 years to get me to like 30. And if I just get the average return in the stock market that you should expect, around 8%, that was a number that was thrown around at that time. Well, how much money is that going to add up to? And so I ran up numbers, and I was like, okay, so when I'm 30 years old, I should have roughly like $40,000 in stocks, right? And so, to me, that just wasn't cutting the mustard. I was like, that's just... that's not enough. You know what I mean? Like that.
But that's what they teach us. And no, they don't even teach us that. They teach us just save your money. And then you put in your money in these bank accounts, and then inflation is killing it. So yeah.
That's just not what I'm going after. I don't want to have just 40K to my name, when I'm 30 years old, especially if I'm going to grind and spend some time doing this. So then I thought, okay, well, what if I get a better return, right? So then I was like, if you can get a great return over a period of time, and I have 100%. All these stocks to invest in. I was investing at a time when the market, or at least starting my investment journey, was time the market was very down. This is in the Great Recession, right? 2000. And I thought, okay, I have all these different companies to pick from, thousands of different stocks. So let's say I can get something like a 20% return. Well, if I can do that and invest that same amount of money, hey, I'm doing a lot better. I basically just doubled up, the amount of money. So I'd have roughly $79,000, $80,000 in stocks when I'm 30 years old, which was cool. But then I was like, oh man, that still doesn't sound that dang exciting. Like I really wanted to have like at least $1 million in stocks when I was 30. And so I'm like, that's not that great. Okay. So now I was thinking, well, what if I start working more hours? Right? And at this time, I think I got also a raise, I would call it a raise, to like $9.10 an hour at Walgreens. So I was like, what if I start working more hours and I cut back some expenses, like I canceled my gym membership, I believe, and, did a few other things.
Pennies.
And so I was like, all right, so I'm going to make more money. So basically, I started having about $450 a month to put towards stocks. Now that I cut some expenses out of my life, and started working some more hours at Walgreens. Now, keep in mind that $450, this was still while living with my parents. So I still had some bills I had to pay, but I didn't pay rent to live at the house. I didn't pay any of the housing expenses. Most of the groceries I ate were still like my parents' groceries at that time. And so, it's like, okay, I got $450, but like,
I just want to say, I probably would have been rich if I ain't started paying rent at 17. Like, I've been paying rent, and now I'm 32 now. Damn, I'm getting old, I know. No, you old when you got to think about how old you are, but yeah, I've been paying rent for damn near 15 years, and fine. Yeah.
Like, if I was living on my own, I wouldn't even have this $450, right? And so I found out, like, if I did that, hey, I'm going to be better off, right? $175,000.
That's not
but
bad either.
At the same time, I'm like, well, I don't want to, I don't want to live with my parents forever. Like, I got to move out and do those sorts of things. So, that $450, you can't even live on your own for $450. Like, that's not going to happen. And so I'm like, oh gosh, like how am I going to make this work where
I'll sell you my closet for $450 a month in rent. You can rent my closet right next to me for $450.
I could actually invest money, right? build up as much money as possible. And that's when I came across a little sign when I went into a Quick Trip one time to get something to drink. I was on a little pool route for my dad. I was cleaning like 10 pools a day or whatever. And, I used to stop at this Quick Trip, and I saw this now hiring sign, and it said, they're starting assistant managers at like $40,000 a year. And so I was like, okay, shoot. And so I applied for Quick Trip at like 1 a.m. and got a call back the next day and got a job at Quick Trip. And so I was like, dang, this could be kind of life-changing for me, to be quite honest. Like, this was a life-changing move that was going to happen, because I was running the numbers and I was like, okay, I could basically start investing $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month now at this point in time, right? And so if I'm investing, because my expenses were still insanely low, and then I was like, even if I move out, I'll probably have gotten a promotion at Quick Trip, because there was a lot of opportunity to kind of move up the ranks fast, get to good bonusing stores. And so regardless if I moved out or, when I was just still living with my parents, I had like $2,000 a month extra to invest. So I ran the numbers on this, and now we're talking about $773,000. So just by that change of going from Walgreens to Quick Trip, I was going to have...
And that's what's the name says. That's why I don't really like the whole Gordon Ramsay. What is that guy? I forget his name. The older Christian dude. I'll remember his name in a second. That used to work. I can't remember who the black dude used to work with. Anyways, like, most people don't have a spending problem. If you can't afford that cup of Starbucks every day that you go to, I went, Dave Ramsey. Thank you. Appreciate it. Right. If you can't afford that cup of Starbucks every day, you got an income problem, and you got to figure out what you need to do to make more money so you can invest more money. Like, you can have 3-4 jobs, but you probably want a higher paying job. But at the end of the day, like, most people have an income problem where they're not making enough money. And sure, if you're out buying a whole bunch of bags and stuff like that instead of investing it, that's one thing. But most people don't have that problem. You do have holidays that come up every month, which don't get me upon holidays, because I used to like Christmas, and now spending money is not really my thing. But yeah, it's easy to say just make more money. But you could jump on YouTube and sit here and react to videos. These videos, obviously, I was going to watch this video anyway, and it takes probably put the thumbnail together, title, let's go. You can do this and get to it. So I'm just saying, give your way to wealth.
Massive amounts more of money. It's like night and day, right?
Exactly.
Now, it was a tough decision.
Anthony O'Neill. Yeah, that's my guy. Yeah, that's exactly who I'm talking about. Yeah, that's my guy. Yeah.
To leave Walgreens, because I actually really liked the coworkers I worked with at that particular Walgreens. I really, I had a lot of fun. To be honest, at that particular Walgreens I was working at back in the day, I had a lot of fun. And so to leave that was actually kind of a tough decision, because I was like, man, I'm actually really enjoying myself. I looked forward to going to work each day, and I always had a good time, but there was this huge opportunity. And so I'm like, I can either make this sacrifice and go start working overnights at Quick Trip, and man, they put me in the hood right away. And so I was working overnights in the hood for basically day one at Quick Trip. And that's not the most fun. That's not the most fun job in the world. From going to what I was doing, working during the day and with a bunch of fun people to work with, to all of a sudden working overnights all by myself at a Quick Trip in the hood. It wasn't the best situation, but it was either I sacrificed fun and maybe my safety. I might have to call the cops a few times working at that Quick Trip, or I could have a lot less money, or maybe never move out of my parents' house. And so I'm like, shoot, I got to get on my grind here. I got to make some sacrifice in my life if I'm going to get to where I want to get to financially. And I made that decision, right? So then there was another opportunity in front of myself that was Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City. It was calling. And in Charlotte, the thing was, we had a new division that was opening up in South Carolina and North Carolina. South Carolina was first, and then after that, Charlotte about a year later. And so I had this opportunity to move out to Charlotte, North Carolina, where the company was expanding, and I understood I was going to get...
Let me see if I can skip to it, because he's giving us a history lesson of his life, and nothing against him, but...
Bubble, right? And if I'm going to, reach a lot more of these dreams and things like that, it's not going to happen working in the corporate world. It just wasn't going to happen. It's like, it was a good starter. And so that's what led me to say, you know what, I'm going to leave Quick Trip and I'm going to move out to Vegas. And so two things really attracted me to Vegas: no taxes and easy to start a business. Very easy place, business climate in Vegas, right? And so over an 11-year time span, if you're putting 10K to stocks, and so that's plus, because I'm thinking, man, if I'm going to make $200,000 a year or something like that, I need to start my own business. It's just, I'm not doing it through the corporate grind. I got to become an entrepreneur. I got to do my own dang thing where my income is not tapped by promotion opportunities and by corporate politics. And if I can have no taxes, that's just a bunch more money I could put in my no state income tax. That's just a bunch more, money I could put in my pocket, which is going to end up going in the stock market, right? And so then I started running numbers. I was like, if I start making like $200,000 a year from my own business, that's like $10K a month, roughly. If I keep my living expenses relatively low, that's like, $10K a month, roughly, I can put toward stocks. And so over an 11-year time span, if you're putting 10K to stocks, getting a 20% return over 11 years, you're at almost $4 million. And so that's what led me to say, this is like a no-brainer. Like, I've got to go out there. I've got to start businesses. I got to become an entrepreneur. And I got to do my own dang thing where my income's not tapped. Because the end of the day, you start realizing.
I hope the advice wasn't just make more money. Because, I mean, let's see.
Hit 7 figures and sent us in a picture. They were in the private stock group. And I can tell you, I know most of these people's backstories. And I can tell you most of them didn't just get there because they got great returns. They got there because they also had jobs where they made 100, 200K a year. And so, or had their own businesses where they made 100, 200, 300K a year. And so they got.
Listen, I had 4 jobs at one point in time. Like four jobs. Like, didn't make the wife too happy because I was never home, but I was grinding like to get to where I needed to be today.
Just whatever, right? That's when you really start to understand the power of essentially the income and having your income in a great place where you can have money to quote unquote buy the dip. And if you don't, that's when, once again, you're not going to get there by just saving. You always want to have extra money to put towards stocks, but by, cutting a gym membership or, trying to, save $10 a month on your car insurance or something like that, that's not getting you to the magic land. I can tell you that. You got to leave your job, get better job opportunities. Never leave your job until you already got another job lined up. By the way, that's a mistake people make. They leave their job first, then go search for a job. That puts you in a huge position of weakness. Always make sure you got.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. That advice was make more money. Don't quit your job until you have another job. Thanks, Jeremy. We learned a lot. That's all I got. I'm hungry. About to go get some breakfast.